Fresh off the back of everyone learning that I can't say authentication, and in a shameless attempt to avoid any words with more than 3 syllables in them, today we're going to look at quite a simple question that I get asked all the time. Basically, how much should I be investing? What percentage of my income should I invest on a monthly basis? By what age should I have this amount of money? Comparison is the thief of joy. At least that's what Theodore Roosevelt supposedly said. But we still do it anyway. Social comparison theory was introduced by Leon Festinger in 1954, and is the school of thought that we determine our own social and personal worth based on how we stack up against other people. Whether you're keeping up with the Joneses, being a social climber, or taking a cheeky look left and right at the urinal.
Dude with a that looks like my leg.
I know you've all done it. We all compare ourselves to those around us. Now, in the past, when our view of the world was limited, that was okay. We had the town or village that we came from, and we had our group of friends around us that were of similar mindsets and socio-economic backgrounds, meaning that our view of the world was quite narrow. But if there's one thing that the recent whistleblower at Facebook has confirmed, it is that social media, and specifically apps like Instagram, have turned social comparison into a malignant force. Beauty ideals have completely shifted, so now we think is the norm for women. And a man isn't a man unless by the age of 20 he's already a company founder, motivational speaker, and can bench double his body weight. All natural, of course.
It's the carbohydrates that's key.
When it comes to finances, comparisons can also be really tough because everybody puts their best foot forward. That guy from work who just bought a brand new Merc isn't going to tell you that it's leased and he eats super noodles every night to pay for it. Even if you put down the social media, which is filled with flexing, fake gurus,
from my garage,
people who achieve FIRE after only 2 years of work, and guys and girls in their 20s with property portfolios worth millions. We're not exactly a society that's open about earnings, investments and savings, are we? Which means you can spend your whole life with the only points of comparison being people who are forthcoming about their financial positions. And those tend to be either in a good place,
I drive a Ferrari,
or full of rubbish.
Profit whenever I want, whatever time I want.
So let's explore the stats, take a peek at some of the averages and dissect what experts say when it comes to where we should be in terms of our savings at different points in our life. We'll start with the theme of comparison by comparing ourselves to the UK average. On screen now is the median saving rate for each age group. Basically that means in each age group 50% of people will be saving less than this and 50% of people will be saving more. The overall average is around 8% of a person's wages on a monthly basis. The same study, which I've linked below for you, goes on to explain that the average household savings are around £79,000. Savings in the context of this study means things like stocks and shares, ISAs, bonds, basically things you can get your hands on. So no work-based pensions and no equity in your home, because let's face it, you can't eat bricks. Well, I stand corrected. Now, before you freak out and think that the average household in the UK has £80,000 in easy accessible savings, please realise that this data is really misleading. Those figures are so heavily skewed by just a handful of people that have a lot of money in the bank. The median average, so the middle figure, is only actually £11,000. And 25% of all homes in the UK have less than £1,800 in easy access savings. We could play this game with every single age group if we dissect these figures. On screen now is the average net financial wealth of each age group. Shout out to all my 16-year-olds who've got more than 8k in investments and savings. But if we dissect these figures again, it's the same pattern. A very small proportion of high net worth individuals are dragging these figures up for everyone else. Think how many footballers sit in that 16 to 24 category. If we explore the median figure again, we can see that 50% of people don't get above 5k in accessible savings figures until they hit 45. And at that point, they start to panic about retirement. So if we base our goals on these averages, if you're under the age of 45 and you've got more than 5 grand in a stocks and shares ISA, you're doing better than at least 50% of the country. Congratulations. But let's be brutally honest here. Looking at this data and trying to decipher where you're at in comparison is essentially pointless. Looking at the mean average will likely just send you under because it's been dragged up by a few very rich individuals. The idea that the average 16-year-old has 8 grand in the stock market is just laughable.
They found a 12-year-old coder who's set to earn $400,000 after selling NFTs for 2 months. 12 years old. This kid is richer than you listening to this right now.
And if you look at the median data, you're going to get a massive false sense of security because the majority of people are simply not saving enough at all. Looking at the median saving rate for the under 34 category would have you believe that a saving rate of 1 to 2% of your income makes you 10 times better off than the average. Which is true. But when you realise the average pension pot of a person in the UK currently sits at about £61,000, which is enough to generate you about 3k a year in income, I hope it becomes apparent that being average in this context is really not good enough. So let's take a look at what the professionals say, because they know more than we do, don't they? Most of the content out there on this topic rehashes information from a piece of work put out by Fidelity. So when people sit there going, by the age of 30 you need 1 year's worth of income saved up, what they're actually doing is quoting this Fidelity study. Fidelity calls it their rules of thumb, and on screen now is a diagram that they produce. Their assumptions when compiling this are as follows. That a person will save 15% of their income annually, beginning at the age of 25, which includes any employer match, so your work-based pension does count. That you invest more than 50% on average of their savings in the stock market over their lifetime. That you want to retire at the age of 67, and that you plan to maintain your pre-retirement lifestyle in retirement. So by this standard, at the age of 30, you need at least 1 year's worth of income saved up. And this does factor in other forms of savings, including pensions. This is where most people would stop, and this is probably the answer that you expected me to give you when clicking on this video. Save 15% of everything you earn, including any contributions from your employer, from the age of 25, and make sure you're hitting these multipliers at each age bracket. But I have some massive issues with this. What if you want to retire early and not at 67? What if your income reduces suddenly or goes up loads? What if you're 40 or 50 and you're only just starting out? This diagram here tries to fit everyone into a Fidelity-shaped box, and life just does not work like that. It's the same problem as looking at the average saving data before. The majority of people in this world are far from average. Telling a single man or woman who lives in the centre of London on 6 figures a year that they should have the same savings rate or financial goals as a married couple living in Wales with 3 kids is just daft. 15% savings rate and multipliers of income are a one-size-fits-all strategy. But when it comes to your personal finances, I hope that you agree that you're worth more than just one size fits all. So in my opinion, the answer here is screw these numbers. Don't let some massive corporation or a guy on YouTube that you've never met define to you where you need to be financially at certain points in your life. That is completely up to you. You set your own goals and then you will hit them. So for example, for me, let's say at the age of 55, I want £500,000 in my stocks and shares ISA, because I know that's going to produce me roughly 20k a year in tax-free income. If I assume a growth rate of 6% a year, and I know I've got 22 years left, I can just break down what I need to contribute each year into that ISA in order to achieve my goal. And the best thing is, when you're setting your own financial goals, you can alter it as you go. Maybe the markets have been really good to you for the last 5 years and you've averaged a rate of return of 12% instead of the 6% you forecasted. So you think, screw it, I'm not going to save this year, I'm going to take my family on a massive holiday instead. Or maybe you've had to dip into your ISA because of a family emergency, and you know now that next year, that's fine, I just need to put my foot down and, step on the gas to catch back up again. Blindly following rules like 15% and 1 times your wage by the age of 30 has no relevance in the context of a goal. And for that reason, it's my opinion, they are harder to follow and stick with. But having a goal and having a number that I have decided makes me accountable to that goal. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I would hate for someone to come onto my channel at the age of 40 or 50 and go, I want to start investing, find a video where I say that by the age of 40 you need 5 times your income or whatever it is, and being like, well, it's pointless. I'm a complete failure, what's the point in even trying? The only person you should be comparing yourself to is you last year. Improving on last year's performance, setting a financial goal to work towards, and then track your performance against that goal. You shouldn't care about where other people say you should be at certain points in your life, because at the end of the day, no one's ever going to care about your finances as much as you do. And that's completely fine, because when it comes to hitting your financial goals, you are all you'll ever need.
I don't need no one, I don't need no one. Round by myself, be fine by myself. I don't need no one help, I don't need no one else. Build it by myself, bourbon from top shelf. Yeah, I don't even know no one.